EMC will take over. We have some presentations from the Ministry of Water Resources and from Federal Ministry of Budget and Planning and the Chartered Institute of Power Engineers of Nigeria. After these presentations, we'll announce the leadership and membership of the 8 syndicate groups, and we expect these syndicate groups to immediately resume work. We expect them to finalize their report today, if possible, so that we can be able to round off as early as possible tomorrow. We are also aware of the swearing in of the Honorable Minister of Power yesterday, and most of the stakeholders were invited back to Abuja to receive the Honorable Minister, new Honorable Minister. We expect most of them to return back today to join the syndicate group. Thank you very much, honorable colleagues, for your determination. Determination is seeing that we achieve a status quo change in the power sector. As you are fully aware, the summit or the stakeholders roundtable is intended to engage more incisively with the public to understand or to have their view or general viewpoint on the power sector, and to enable us to accelerate the electricity supply industry, NESI value chain, and to offer solution for Nigerians, particularly the taxpayers' money are being used in the improvement of the NESI value chain. So with this, I welcome you back to today's session, and I now hand over to the MC to continue from this point. Thank you so much. Unfortunately. Anyway, we'll be made to be part of the panelists, and I believe members will be able to raise those fundamental issues they have noted. So no problem. Thank you very much for the presentation. You can take care.
Esiogene Abraham. I'm the president of the Chartered Institute of Power Engineers of Nigeria. As a professional institute and practice regulator, we want to first of all appreciate this August gathering, especially the chairman who has found it necessary to convey such August meeting, of which we are a very important stakeholder. I'll just read so that we could, maybe when we go to technical sessions, we'll be involved in trying to talk with other stakeholders to see the best that the sector can gain from our experience as practitioners. Nearly 2 decades after the Electric Power Sector Reform Act of 2005 and subsequent reforms, Nigerian electricity industry has failed to deliver the promised transformation. Installed capacity exceeds 13,000 megawatts. Yet, the average daily generation struggles below 6,000 megawatts. Actual grid supply in first quarter of 2026 fell to about 3,053 megawatts due to gas shortages, leaving 86.8 million Nigerians without access to electricity. The crisis is not fundamentally technical. CPEN maintains that politics is the biggest problem affecting the Nigerian power sector, compounded by liquidity constraints, gas-to-power misalignments, vandalism, weak governance, and lack of professional leadership. This paper identifies core problems across the value chain and proposes 12 actionable solutions to strengthen the MDAs, the DISCOs, the GENCOs, the gas suppliers, and other value chains of the sector. Overview of sector reforms and expenditures from 2007 to 2024. Is presently unutilized, or Nigerians cannot have that. Another reforms that is part of that milestone is the PSRP and World Bank district, which also was to improve the DISCO performance, the metering gap that was identified as well, over $500 million. Initial funding was put in place with about 1.3 million meters procured as of 2024. The Resources Act of 2023, as amended at 2025, which reform was to decentralize the market. As at present, we have about 16 state markets created. The transition is presently ongoing. We see a tariff deficit of about 1.9 trillion, which are annually coming on for up to as of 2025. Then we also have another reform that came up, the Siemens Presidential Power Initiative, which was designed to have about 12,000 megawatts to be added to the grid. That also is ongoing. Total investment of all this is estimated to be about $10 to $16 billion, with about $2 billion presently attracted in the last 3 years from records from government. Key problems identified. At the generation level, we have gas supply crisis. That has been much talked about. I don't need to go into that again. The speakers from the NNPC and NDP, ROC, and all the rest have talked much on that. Then we have the liquidity and the debt issues that is now being classified as legacy debt. Mbet was here yesterday to talk about all that as well, so I won't be repeating all that. Then we have the stranded capacities issues of about 4,000 thereabout that is lost daily to Discos not being able to pick up such load, and or maybe we have due to gas constraint not being able to have enough gas to power some of the plants as at when required. At the transmission level, we have the grid instability, which is a kind of persistent with us as a sector. System collapses comes in every now and then, which is due to frequency imbalance. We were told yesterday, TCN was here to let us understand the kind of problem they face as well. And we also have others who talked about a lot of towers being vandalized here and there. All this costing a lot of money. We have about 29.3 billion spent on repairs or to maintain some of those towers that have been vandalized. You know, we have evacuation bottlenecks, which is also persistent. I've mentioned something of such just earlier. About 30% of available capacity is presently stranded and could not be taken out due to some corridor issues or lack of enough network, either to be able to evacuate them or at least push them to where they will be needed to be used. At the distribution level, you have a lot of commercial losses, technical, commercial, and collection losses. About 48% of total of such is yet to be able to collect as at this moment. That means 6 in 8 customers are presently unmetered. So if we have 10 customers in all in Nigeria, we have over 6 or more than that number yet unmetered. Then we have financial weaknesses. This goes collected about 600 billion in the first quarter of this year, yet we have a lot of blackouts all around. We can't get the supply to the customers or the consumers to have a feel of it. Recovery inefficiency is as low as 41.2% in some Discos franchise areas. Then the fourth part, the governance as cross-cutting issues. Political interference and lack of professional leadership. CPEN states that federal government lack the political will and to appoint just non-professionals. Politics presently decide everything, which is part of our being, as I earlier said. We need to find a way around it, have a middle point. Politics is important, but when Nigerians have in mind that what they require is to have power, they will need to come to terms. How do we juxtapose between having power and playing politics with same? If we can come to a middle point, I believe Nigeria will succeed. But if we continue in this trajectory, where we put everything and politicize everything, then even this meeting, this gathering, will still not be able to achieve its aim. So please, I want to use that as a personal appeal, that we need to see how we can have a middle point between the politics and the practice. Yeah, so secondly, we have institutional fragmentation. Multiple agencies on the gas to power value chain, but unable to coordinate its own mandates. quackery and standard. You have unlicensed professionals all across, non-professionals doing what it meant to be done by professionals. All these are many issues and many other issues that need to be sorted out. Tariff and subsidy traps. The tariff is frozen. That is why the government gives orders to say, look, don't take more than this for political reasons. Why the gas costs are in dollars, are denominated in dollars, which has always increased the subsidy gap that government has to pay to, up the remainder. And presently we have about 1.8 trillion as at 2025. Now the impact on the MDAs, the regulatory bodies, gas and power companies, and the stakeholders and impact of the current problems. We believe NEC can presently not enforce a cost-reflective tariff. NEC is even presently being forced to issue compensation directives for poor services. The bottom line is that NEC requires clear independence. Independence to be able to take decisions that will affect and make it a way to actually run the electricity sector as a regulator. As we speak, I don't think that is happening. NEC is more like, it's just being guided. Anywhere it's asked to go is what it goes. Of course, we know it's part of government, but we need to respect the independence of its judgment and allow it to actually do what it ought to do. That way we can have a market. Otherwise, we will just be playing. And I think I've said that earlier, that politics drives some of these things. So we are not succeeding. NISO, first load shedding, manages the grid with less than 40% gas availability. Embed presently owes Gencos about 1.644 trillion and cannot settle the gas suppliers. The gas suppliers themselves are owed about 3.3 trillion as the government figures shows. We advise that there should be priority of which prioritize LNG export over domestic supply to power some of these plants. Gencos start and stop plant 365 days, that is in a year. Every year, over 80% of the cost of gas is friendly related. For the discos, this of only 50% of energy received is what they can account for. And not only that, we don't have much investment coming out from that end to actually ensure that you have their network in the way it should be, so that they can actually deliver power to the consumers and the customers. And customers presently pay high, band A, band B, band C, band D, and all arrangements that is being designed to be able to sort out some of these issues. But as you know, or as we all agree as a Nigerian right now, that is not working. I think just about a month or thereabout, NEC asked some of these discos to make compensation to consumers. I'm sure that is ongoing. I don't know how far that has been implemented. So for TCM, we have weak infrastructures that needed to be done, aging equipment and all that. These are part of issues we think ought to be looked at as part of making us have solutions to some of these things. Now, the solutions and recommendations we try to propose. Cyber proposed power recovery and professionalization compact anchored on 3 pillars. Pillar 1, professionalize governance and enforce standards. That is, declare a state of emergency in the power sector. Mobilize funds and resources towards that venture so that the emergency being declared can actually be impactful. Competence-based appointment. Federal government must choose competence over politics for MDAs and regulatory heirs. No non-engineer should be heading a technical MDAs. That is an aberration. Enforce Serpent Act 2023. All power engineers in the public and private sector must be licensed so that we can prosecute quackery to reduce system failures. Create gas to power coordination task force. There should be a single body we propose that will consist of NEC, NM, DPRA, NUPRIC, NMPC, MVET, and so on, so that these issues of legacy debt can be done in a round table among them, and we can have a solution so that we can enforce, we can cut that debt down and enforce domestic gas supply obligations in the country. Pillar 2, fix liquidity and commercial frameworks. And one of it, the first of it is clear legacy debt. We ask the federal government to honor its statement. President Tinubu gave approval to clear the Genco debt. We ask that that be done so that MBED can actually release that money and clear that as well as opening the floodgate of the Gencos to do more. cost-reflective tariff and targeted subsidy, move from blanket subsidies that miss over 40% of grid poor consumers to direct transfer, allow discos to recover fully if service level is met. Metering acceleration, deploy 1.3 meters by second quarter of this year, which is already ending. So, as planned, but we think government can still do it because government has a lot of power. It has enormous power, and whatever it says it wants to do, if it puts its feet down, it can actually achieve that. Meter all MDAs to stop government debt. Right at this moment, just like the man from ANET said yesterday, some government establishments hardly pay for supply delivered to them. So let there be absolute meter for them and let them be able to pay their debt. Then performance contract for discos. Leak license renewal to ATC and C loss reduction below 20% within 3 years. Penalize energy rejection that causes 2,551 megawatts stranded daily. Pillar 3, strengthen capacity and infrastructure. And we suggest that the first of it is that we should have embedded generations for state capitals as a starting point. Adopt city by city steady power up to between now and 2030, so that we can have T&D losses. We can use T&D losses and improve reliability. Transmission investments and security. Fast track Siemens PPI, that is Presidential Power Initiative. Use technology and community policing to protect the towers. The towers that are being vandalized on a day-to-day basis passes through various towns and villages. So if we engage those communities to serve as the, kind of police those infrastructures, whatever money we spent right now, almost about 30 billion, if you give it to these villagers at maybe 1 million naira per month, they will sleep under the tower. They will sleep there. And I mean, we are just trying to reason out because, yes, so 30 billion is not peanut. And we believe these towers pass through these villages and towns, and we could engage the community, actually. I think that's the bottom line of what we're trying to pass across. Then we talk of capacity building. We intend that SIPEN will partner with NAPTIN, who are the trainers in the sector, and we are the professionals in the sector. We can work together to ensure that we actually come up with a mandatory training, but that government has to be involved in that. For we can have a mandatory training for engineers and engineering professionals for them to upscale their skills, for you to meet up with the capacity gap that exists in the sector right now. Then expected outcome from those 12 recommendations we have made. What we expect to happen if these things are followed is that we are going to have a grid generation capacity of about 20,000 megawatts from what we have right now, with 95% gas availability. 2, the ATC and C losses will be less than 50%, and disco revenue will actually shoot up to about 80 to 90%. All the 30 states, capital, and the FCT will be at least on 20 hours a day of supply by using that embedded generation and generation mix as proposed. Also, we are going to have in place a kind of zero unlicensed professionals or practitioners who presently roam about the entire sector, and you don't know who is who or who is doing what. And then we believe that will also bring about 10 billion investment that we can have for the sector, as earlier proposed by the immediate past Minister of Power, or projected rather by the immediate past Minister of Power. In conclusion, the Nigerian power sector is in a crisis, but it is solvable if the government matches reform rhetorics with political will and professional leadership. As CPN has stated, when government puts its feet down, within some years, the power sector will begin to work. CPN stands ready to provide certified professionals, technical audit, and enforcement of standards to drive this turnaround. I thank you, honorable members, the chairman as seated, and everyone on this hall, that please let the government and every one of us get government to de-emphasize politics in managing the power sector. If we do this, we will succeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer. Please, committee recognize you particularly. And I just feel perhaps maybe you are an architect.
I'm an engineer.
Not an engineer.
I'm an engineer, sir.
You should be an architect. Your presentation is definitely the committee will adopt this presentation as part of our working document.
Thank you very much, sir. We'll make the detail of everything and send back to you, sir. Thank you very much.
On the final report tomorrow. This one is to provide the required engagement between the captains in the sector and the honorable committee members. So before then, I was advised that it's better because some people could not go for breakfast. They rushed to come here. Maybe we go for the breakfast by 12 noon and to resume back in 30 minutes so that the panelist session will commence immediately after. They're utilizing our water resources in this country. There are so many dams around that we can create a way forward through with mini grids.
Yes, sir.
So now maybe after about 7, I have a lot of questions to ask. You concession most of those dams. The concession agreements, most of them are with us.
Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning all. I am here to represent the Honorable Minister of Federal Ministry of Water Resources to make a few remarks on some of the correspondences we have received from the committee and suggest a way forward towards this noble assignment. As an introduction, Federal Ministry of Water Resources actually is saddled with the responsibility of water resources management in general. Our mandate does not include the building of power generation. However, we go along with that and do more by building so much of this, power, this hydropower infrastructure facility in so many of the, of our projects, like the recent one we have now, operating Kashimbila, that have been operating at a maximum, optimum, production. Then, of course, Gurara, that is about to be, the concessioning is about to be closed, maybe by the end of this week, God willing. Now, having said that, I want to say that sometimes ago, as part of our effort to support this noble assignment, we ceded some of our hydropower dam to Ministry of Power to actually take, for concessioning and widening this gap that exists in this power sector, improvement. Dams like Bakulori, Ikeregod Dam, Oyon Dam, Omikankwe, Jibua, and Zobe. I believe the Ministry of Power has gone far in this assignment to, close the concessionary and, of course, make this facility to be operating at maximum level. On our part, in water resources, we actually working, just as I said the other time, on the Kashimbila hydropower dam in Taraba State. That is working perfectly well, and we are making progress. Secondly is the Gurara Dam. That, God willing, will be closed by this week. And Dadinkoa is another one. Dadinkoa has some issues, and we are working assiduously on that too. But we're a bit far behind because the issue of Dadinkoa is quite different from the other two I mentioned. Dadinkoa has been built a long time ago, just as what we have in our nation generally. Most of these infrastructure are built by the ministry, but somehow one thing leads to the other. They are abandoned, and by the time this water infrastructure, you can imagine this infrastructure underwater, staying there for many years, definitely it will lose its value. So that's one of the problems we have with Dadinkoa, unlike the Kashibila that was built immediately, we commissioned it, concessioned it, and it's producing of course, Gurara has a little issue like that. That ought to have been completed maybe over 10 years ago. Unfortunately, we sent it to Kaduna, Kudendo, we couldn't go on. But as I said, the concession is about being closed by the end of this week, by God's grace. Having said that, I wish to say, Mr. Chairman, that the Honorable Minister is working around the clock to support this noble assignment of providing clean energy for Nigerians. And some of our new projects, both the brown and the green fields, are really on. We are working around the clock to make sure some of these things are, some of these things really come up. Unfortunately for the ministry, the issue of funding is a major problem. Because when you talk about hydropower generation, it requires so much funds. The dam aspect, you can spend more than 3, 4, 5 years to complete the dam. Even by the time the dam gets completed, to fill the reservoir to capacity to spill so that it can actually serve the purpose of the generation is another issue. Now going into the building up of the hydropower infrastructure. But by and large, we are up to the task and we are doing our very best to deliver the best to the nation. Now, having said that, I wish to say that the concessionary some of the people that the company that they were this infrastructure were concession to, I believe the ministry has concluded all these concession agreement and have been forwarded to the office of the chairman. The committee chairman, because they were written on that, and the ministry has equally responded to that. I believe this thing must have been, because we're actually waiting for the permanent secretary to append his signature to some of this to the letter bearing this document, forwarding it to your office. And sincerely, on that note, I want to say that even the issue of one of our generating agencies that was mentioned, that's a integrated water resources commission. All their remittances too are made directly to government coffers, and the evidence of this payment are also forwarded to your officer. And finally, sir, I also say that to help the ministry to actually live to its responsibility in providing this clean energy, many of these are, this ongoing project has to be completed on time. Otherwise, ours is such that if you leave it for a long time, you lose substantial part of this work. By the time you come back, you have to spend so much money again to bring it to the state where you lost it initially. And of course, by the time you begin to look at the way you spend money like that, you might end up not completing the work on time. And this is one of the major challenges we have in Federal Ministry of Water Resources as regarding completion of our dam. Let me mention the issue of the Farinruwa hydropower concession 2 in Nasarawa State. The dam was actually given to the ministry. The state requested for assistance of the federal government to do it. And we saw that it's okay for us since it has hydropower. The Honorable Minister graciously, approved the taking over. And that too is on the line. We are trying to complete the dam first so that the hydropower component can be concession. Until we finish the dam, we can't do because doing the concessioning of the hydropower component, there's nothing to power it. The water to power it is not available. On that note, I want to thank the Honorable Chairman once again and the committee members for the great work you are doing. We pray that God will continue to help you more and more. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. But I believe members will have a lot of questions. A lot of... Prof, the distinguished stakeholders in the industry, our secretariat, ably manned by Dr. Muri and the other secretariat staff, our hardworking consultants. I thank you very much and I welcome you back to the second session. Today, being the second day, we are now moving to the technical aspects of the interaction. Yesterday, we received, and today we received a presentation from stakeholders. And usual with our procedure, honorable members have taken note of some critical issues raised by the stakeholders from their respective area of responsibility and mandate. So today, the first panelist session is going to have some of the stakeholders. They'll be here to talk more on their mandate and their roles in the NESI value chain. Honorable members will be here to engage you properly. I will simply moderate. The first panelist will be the regulator. The regulator in the NESI value chain. Those that were saddled with the responsibility of regulating the industry through the Nigerian Electricity Act 2023, and that is none other but the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. So I wish to invite Dr. Muslu Olalekan Hussaini, the chairman of NEC, to take the first seat. PE. Then another regulator, very critical because they regulate very important key resource, which availability guarantees steady light. That is gas resource that we have under the PIA, the Nigerian Midstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority played a key role in ensuring that we have gas for power and dedicated to power production in the country. I'd like to invite Engineer Joseph Musa to come on stage. You're welcome. And then the agencies were created to indemnify our generating companies, to give them a sort of guarantee that what they generate will be obtaken, whether we use it or not. And with that agency, our GENCOs family believe in, continue to generate the megawatts we utilize. And that agency is none other than the NBET, Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company. And I'd like to invite Abdullahi Adedeji, Engineer Abdullahi Adedeji. All right. The ministry, the federal government, they feel they have nothing to, they have no role to play here in the NESI value chain. We told them otherwise, that we manage our water resource. Do we actually utilize those resources very well? No, certainly. They have realized that they have a critical role in the sector. They have made their presentation here, but I believe members will have a number of questions to engage them with. In that respect, the Ministry of Water Resources also is identified and recognized to be part of this panel today. so that they can speak and explain more to Nigerians their role in the electric sector generally. In this respect, I'd like to invite Mr. Patoyimbo Timothy to come on stage. There's an umbrella body that's set to coordinate the activities of the generating companies. And they have a lot of take. Yesterday, the chairman of the executive secretary of the group, that the APG Association of Power Generating Companies, Ms. Joy O. Ogaji made a presentation, even though it was impromptu. She was called upon to make her presentation that she admitted that she was not prepared. But I believe she's prepared now to give more insight into the challenges of the GENCOs and what needs to be done going forward. So, a success story in the privatization generally. I'd like to invite Mr. AD-HOC, the Managing Director of Azura Power PLC. So, now complete? All right. So thank you very much. Before I take my seat, honorable colleagues, invited guests, and stakeholders to this very important summit. We concluded yesterday with a statement. Discourse. So no problem, we can make 8. What of the chairman of Association of Distributors? Is he around? You can be here. Okay, let me call on the Managing Director of Yola Electricity Distribution Company. Yola Distribution Company. The Managing Director of Yola Distribution Company, I know he's around. You don't want to? Okay, the discourse. Please appoint one of you to represent the discourse. Nigerians need to see NEC.
State-owned public enterprises, of which power sector is one. So Bureau of Public Enterprises actually was saddled with the responsibility of privatizing the, or maybe let me put it in a more broader perspective, reforming the power sector. And as some of us may be aware, the reform of the power sector started with the policy in 2001. Then the 2025 Act actually came out from the 2001 policy. So the privatization kick-started thereafter. And I don't want to go into detail, but we know that actually the power sector as a monopoly, it cannot be privatized the way it was. So it was unbundled into about 18 companies, about 11 distribution companies, 6 generation companies, so that's it, and the transmission company. So the privatization successfully completed in 2013, and all the entities were handed over to the co-investor, except the transmission company, which actually went on concession at that time. So in 2013, these assets were actually handed over to the private sector. On BP, we actually opened our hands. Operations of the power asset were handed over to the private sector. The policy aspect of it it was the ministry that took over the policy. Then the regulation of the power sector was taken over by the then established Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Agency. So we have done our work. We have handed over the operation to the private sector. The regulation has been handed over to NAC. Then the ministry is in charge of the policy. So this is, in a nutshell, what we have done in the power sector, our role actually in the power sector. Then going back to the success, as you're all aware, the main objective, the primary objective of privatizing the power sector is, one, to increase the generating capacity of these assets, and two, to reduce the burden of government funding these assets year by year. Millions of naira are being sunk into the power sector. Then three is to inject the private investments. Instead of government funding these assets, it's now coming from the private sector. So instead, government can use these funds to inject it in other social sector of the economy. And also to reduce to a larger extent the interference, the government interference in the operations and management of the sector. We all know what was happening before. The MD of NEPA, the appointment of MD of NEPA is being influenced by political patronage, but NEPA is no longer there. The operations is in the hand of the discos. It's the people that invested in those discos that will have the responsibility to appoint whoever is going to manage this discos. So these are true. I cannot say we have achieved all these objectives, but if you look at it, we are not yet there, but to a larger extent, we have achieved some of these objectives. One, substantial investment has been made in the power sector. Yesterday, I was listening to the TCN man. You know the generating capacity of the TCN prior to the privatization. And you know the generation of TCN today, about 7,300 megawatts, as mentioned yesterday. Not from me, from TCN. Prior to privatization, I think it's just about 4,800 megawatts. And if you look at the AT&C losses of the distribution segment of it, before the privatization of these assets, it was about 50%. But as I can tell you today, the AT&C losses is about 34%. It was reduced drastically. And this is the basic, because it increased the collection efficiency of the disco, it increases the billing efficiency of the discos, and thereby increasing the revenue in the power, bringing more revenue into the power sector. So these are some of the things we feel that we are not yet there, but really something is gradually we are getting there. I can tell you today, people know the distinction between generation, distribution, transmission, but most of the people before then, they only know NEPA. But today people can tell you, no, I can quickly run to my distribution company. And TCN, if something happens, people know if there's a grid collapse or grid disturbances, and they rightly put it. People know it was the fault of the TCN. So these are some of the things that we feel that we have achieved. Like I said, we are not yet there, but actually, if you look at the investment that have been made in some of these generation companies, sincerely speaking, we can give kudos to the government for privatizing these entities. Go to Shiroro, go to Kanji. Egbin, for instance, if you see the level of investment, go and look at the capacity of the Egbin prior to privatization and see the capacity of the Egbin today. So a lot of investment has been injected in most of these assets. Thank you. Let me not take more than 5 minutes, but in a nutshell, these are some of the things that I feel we have achieved under privatization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, BPE. Honorable colleagues, I think you deserve a clap.
Services. I'm representing my MD, as I said yesterday. He was unable to attend due to the inauguration of our Minister of Power. Transmission Company of Nigeria, as BPE said, is the only entity that is still owned by the government. And our responsibility is to evacuate, transmit, and wheel the bulk power produced by the GENCOs. And then this power that we transmit is the one that we give to discos to distribute together with our eligible customers. So our customers that are directly with us, we call them eligible customers that are on 132 kb. Though we are going to have those that will be on 330, but as at present, we have 132 kb, most of the industries that are within here in Lagos. So our transmission company is also in charge of all the infrastructures that were involved on 330 and 132 kb in terms of maintenance. as well as delivering these equipments in the switchyards, where we have 10 regions in the whole 6 regions of Nigeria. We are having 10 number work centers. We are having 31 sub-regions. And then we are having the 132 kV substations, which are 132 33 kV, that are closer to the distribution in terms of giving the supply. And then the one that transmit the bulk power in terms of 330 to 132 kV. The substation on 330, we have 31 numbers, whereas on 132, we have 182 substations. And all these substations, including the networks, are the responsibility of the transmission service to maintain them and make sure that this equipment deliver at all time. As the BPE said, our transmission capacity as at present, which has been simulated and it is existing, is 8,700 megawatts, not 7,000, as he said. It was brought from 7,000 to 8,700 in 2023. As at present, we are having 8,700 by 2024-2025. So of this capacity, we were able, in 2025, to give out 5,801 plus megawatts. So we have a deficit of 8,700 minus that. So almost we are having about 1,900 plus as the deficit in terms of transmitting bulk power. You know, Generation has said, which NAC has confirmed, they have their own total capacity at 13,000 megawatt plus, of which we can deliver 8,700. So that deficit is there, as we said. So you can see, even as generation to transmission, when we cannot deliver, we are having that bottleneck for us to have that challenge. And at the same time, we will want the distribution to deliver, for us to know that that 8,700 can be delivered to our customers, of which NISO is not available. We were thinking that most of the wheel capacity that we are capable of delivering is being rejected. So that's why we cannot reach that. But we are hopeful with this kind of meetings and gatherings we are having, we will succeed. Transmission company also is expanding its network. You know, we have counterparts like AFD, AFDB, we have World Bank, we have JICA that are funding our most of the networks that we are providing, some of which have already entered the network. As at 2025, if I can recall, we commissioned the Dawaki, which we call Gwarinfa, 132 kV substation in Abuja. Like in Abuja, we have about 4 to 5 projects that are being funded by AFD. We have at Lugbe, we have at Wumba, we have at Pigba, which we call New Apple. So most of these stations, if they come up, we have an additional capacity within the franchise of Abuja Distribution Company. The JICA normally takes its own project mostly around this western zone. Most of the projects have just kicked up and they are ongoing. So they will soon come up, of which we are hoping. By the time the distribution started picking more load and transmission substations are available, that bottleneck we are having, if the distribution has not expanded, it is 13,000, we'll be able to cover up the bottleneck, which is between 13,000 to 8,700. Of the achievements of just of recent, in 2025, like at the zone of those northeastern sites, because of that rejection of load, of which we are told we have deficit in terms of delivering more power to that site. So we had to do what we call a turn-in, turn-out at Bauchi. As at that time, the total load that can be carried out from Jos towards the northeastern side, we have a network that can carry up to 600 megawatts. But due to most of the line capacity that are not capable to carry that load, so we had to make most of the substations there to be a bigger voltage. You know, in terms of transmitting, we need to have a very high voltage, which can deliver so that at 13233, all the voltages will be very, very clear. So we had Bauchi, which was 132 kV, and it was made a 330 kV. And the project was successful. It was energized, and it is in circuit. Likewise, at Ihovo, the NDPHC was complaining of its evacuation, of which Azura has taken over its network. So we made it mandatory to us, because as at that time we are working on a line that is turning in, turning out the Benin-Ajakuta line, a single circuit, line 2. That one was available in April 2023. We are able to energize, which will be capable of bringing in the NDPHC power, the one that can be evacuated to the grid. And we have so many projects toward that axis, which are ongoing. Though most of our bottlenecks that we are having with those lines are the right-of-way. Honestly, we want the government to come into this, our right-of-way issues. Most of all these new buildings that are coming up, we don't know as to whether they get the permit from the urban developments of the states or the local governments, because this is what is giving us much of the problem, even for us to maintain the lines, which were being vandalized. There are some areas that we cannot even get to the towers. Some of the towers, even the buildings are under them. If you go to the south, you go to the north, you go to the west, it's all over. People are occupying our right-of-way. So I think the government needs to help TCN to overcome this. If not, even if we make the network to be available, by the time these lines are having problems for us to restore supply, it will be a very, very big problem for us. Also, we collaborate with the NISO, though we were together before, now they are independent, in terms of providing control for all these our equipments. We have a transmission system operator, of which when NISO was with us, they were the system operators. So because the infrastructure belongs to us, we maintain, manage. So we have these departments that also oversee, in tandem with the Nigerian Independent System Operator, in monitoring these equipments and also delivering as when due the energy that we are supposed to deliver to the customers through the distribution companies. As well on 33 kV, which the distribution also has the responsibility to deliver. But the equipment belongs to us as far as evacuation is concerned. So up to the breaker level, up to the isolator, those equipments are under our responsibility. We are responsible for maintaining all those equipments. But our bottlenecks with that is most of the feeders that are direct to the rural areas, not those ones that pass through the injection substations. Whenever we are having faults, normally